Zhou Ningyuan and I, from campus to wedding dress, 10 years of love known to all. He has a severe aversion to children, and I voluntarily got an IUD for him. Since then, my health has been deteriorating, and he has been taking care of me meticulously. He was afraid it would melt if held in his mouth, and break if held in his palm. But Zhou Ningyuan like this betrayed me. He spent a spring night with a young nurse at a colleague's party. I proposed a breakup, and he knelt in front of everyone, begging for my forgiveness. That time I softened my heart. But 3 months later, a colleague told me that Zhou Ningyuan was accompanying the young nurse for a prenatal checkup, and he explained with red eyes, "Dad threatened me with death. This child must be kept. He also promised me, after she gives birth, I will never let her appear in front of you. I still believed him. Until one day when I came home, the young nurse was lying in the bedroom, and my luggage was casually threw. WN in the storage room. Sewer, pregnant women need to rest. You have been wrong during this time. I didn't say a word and smoked all night on the balcony. The next morning, I went straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Hello, I'm here to inquire about divorce. When I returned home, my luggage was still piled up in front of the storage room door. The table was full of delicious dishes, all of which were Zhou Ningyuan's favorites. Brother Ningyuan, I want to eat sour grapes, Zhou Ningyuan said coquettishly, and she deliberately glanced at me while speaking. Zhou Ningyuan didn't catch the implied meaning, not hesitating for a second. Wait, I'll be back soon. He left in a hurry, so anxious that he bumped into me hard without even noticing. I was holding my aching shoulder, watching Zhou Ningyuan laugh uncontrollably. You stopped pretending just 2 seconds after he left, didn't you? Her laughter came to an abrupt halt, her eyes pitch black. So don't you know better than to get lost quickly? I will leave, you don't have to worry. I handed her a divorce agreement. I'll give it to him. He won't sign it. You figure out how to get him to sign. Zhou Ningyuan took it, looking at me with a complicated gaze. She agreed readily, her eyebrows full of confidence. I walked towards the pile of luggage, like a heap of trash, searching for things worth taking. After flipping through a couple of times, I couldn't help but laugh. How come most of my own things are about Zhou Ningyuan? Stacks of notebooks, all filled with Zhou Ningyuan's handwriting. Back then, he was my senior, a paragon of virtue and scholarship, while I was a master at skipping classes, always forcing him to take notes for me. Over time, his handwriting covered them. As soon as I opened it, it was the precise page, the only one with crumpled paper. Do you like me? The next page was, I really like you. Zhou Ningyuan's confession was hidden among the dense text. I'll remember the pounding heart when I suddenly saw this sentence while studying the notes. Closing the notebook, I looked at the small box next to it. Inside was what Zhou Ningyuan put on for me when he proposed. As for why it's a pair, it's just because Zhou Ningyuan's one was thrown under the bed by him. He needed to free up a finger to put on Zhou Ningyuan's ring. I threw away the box, stood up, and left with nothing. I hadn't walked far when I saw Zhou Ningyuan, drenched and carrying grapes. Where are you going in the middle of the night? Back to the hospital, there's an emergency. He hummed in response, then hurried past me as if we were just casual neighbors exchanging pleasantries. That day, I walked through the storm all night. As the sun rose in the east, my phone lit up first. Zhou Ningyuan sent a photo, the divorce agreement clearly signed with Zhou Ningyuan's name. The handwriting was exactly the same as the confession in the notebook. I thought I was mentally prepared, but when I saw it, my heart still clenched. Zhou Ningyuan managed it in just a few hours. No wonder she looked so confident. It's for the best. I immediately turned around and went home to get the divorce agreement. Seeing me all wet, Zhou Ningyuan quickly grabbed a towel to wipe me down. You're such a big person now. You don't even know to use an umbrella when you go out. I don't have the habit of using an umbrella because Zhou Ningyuan used to always hold one tilted towards me. But he seems to have forgotten all about that. I took his hand and walked towards Zhou Ningyuan's room, but he held me back. What do you want to do? I was stunned and didn't say a word. He seemed to realize he was a bit out of line and quickly corrected himself. I didn't mean anything by it. Don't get me wrong. After a moment, he spoke again. It was hard to get her to sleep. Don't wake her up. And so, I sat alone on the sofa for 10 hours. During that time, I watched Zhou Ningyuan sit by the bed, carefully reading a child-rearing manual and clumsily cooking dishes according to a recipe. Watching his busy back, I felt like it was all a dream. The long-buried question still came out. Zhou Ningyuan, didn't you say you don't like children? His hand, chopping vegetables, paused for a moment as if in thought. Things said in youth don't count. After watching some parenting videos, I find children really adorable. He wiped his hands, took out the video, and sat down to watch it with me. Listening to his incessant sharing, I touched my stomach, from which came a piercing pain. I remember when I first got the IUD, my abdomen was always infected, the worst time leading to a uterine perforation, and I was rushed to the ICU overnight. Later, it also left me with chronic conditions. My waist could hardly make big movements, and other organs suffered various degrees of damage. And all of this, in the end, was condensed into a lightly descry. Bed sentence. We were too young back then. After Zhou Ningyuan woke up, I left with the divorce agreement. But I was stopped by Zhou Ningyuan. He had a cold face, and his tone was icy, devoid of any warmth. "What's in your hand? You came back in the rain to get it." He reached for it, but I dodged quickly, leaving his hand awkwardly hanging in midair. Zhou Ningyuan was stunned for a moment, and his face visibly darkened further. "Suer, do we have secrets from each other now?" I snorted and glanced at Zhou Ningyuan. "You also kept it from me, letting another woman be pregnant for 3 months, didn't you?" Zhou Ningyuan looked embarrassed, knowing he was in the wrong, but still said, "I just didn't want to make you sad, and I was afraid you would leave me. But I ended up bruised all over. But I still decided to leave you." I took a deep breath and turned my head, leaving this home. Zhou Ningyuan instinctively wanted to chase after me, but stopped in his tracks. Use of Zhou Ningyuan's crying. Back at the office, I fell straight to the ground before even entering the door. My head was scorching, and my throat felt like it was pierced by 1,000 needles. Dragging my sick body, I completed today's surgery. When I came out, I was already on the verge of collapse, and the nurse walked over with difficulty, handing me a medical record. "Dr. Lin, Dr. Zhou said he can't come due to some matters. Could you handle this surgery for him?" Her tone was cautious, afraid that I would get angry because of this. Because this is already the 8th time this month. Zhou Ningyuan is constantly worried about Zhou Ningyuan, so even if she just has normal morning sickness, he would take leave and not come. But the hospital is not like other workplaces. Patients can't wait. Zhou Ningyuan nonchalantly dumped all the work on me because I am his classmate, and even more, his wife. I once went to the dean about this matter, who is also my father-in-law. Whoa. He not only didn't deal with it, he scolded me instead. "If it weren't for you insisting on not having children and getting an IUD, would Ningyuan value this child so much now? If you're so dissatisfied, just have the IUD removed and give him another child. But I heard that your body is severely damaged, and you won't be able to have children in this life, right? Since it's already like this, why don't you be generous and just let it go? Maybe Ningyuan will be in a good mood and let you be the child's godmother." That day, I found out how Zhou Ningyuan talked to his family. It was him who didn't want children, but he said it was because I wouldn't have any. So all the blame fell on me. I confronted Zhou Ningyuan, but he didn't care. "You don't have children, I don't have children, isn't the result the same? Does it matter who it's said about? Besides, it's already like this, can't you consider my situation?" "Sua, when did you become so selfish?" In the end, my father-in-law threatened me with my job to behave and not to worry Zhou Ningyuan. I was panting heavily, struggling to stand up, and staggered into the operating room. I don't know how I got through those 5 hours, only knowing that I fainted as soon as I stepped out of the operating room. I heard the anxious voices of my colleagues and a series of urgent phone rings. Recognizing the name on the screen, I pressed the play button with my last bit of strength. "Yuanyuan wants to eat pork rib soup. I can't make it. Come back and help me make it. Yours is the best. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't even have the strength to force a bitter smile. "Hello. Hello. Are you listening? Zhou Ningyuan, find someone else. I spoke indifferently. Zhou Ningyuan sighed and hung up the phone. He didn't hear my vulnerability, only saw my refusal. I didn't have the strength to grieve and soon fell into a coma. When I opened my eyes again, it was Zhou Ningyuan tightly holding my hand, his face full of guilt. "Suer, why didn't you tell me you had a fever?" "Do you know? When they told me, I was almost scared to death. Looking at that familiar anxious face, I no longer felt touched. I pushed his hand away, my voice hoarse. "I'm fine. Zhou Ningyuan frowned. "You're still the same as before, always trying to be strong, when you're clearly very fragile. So you knew. My casual remark made Zhou Ningyuan stiffen. He leaned over and kissed the top of my head. "Fool, how could I forget? Everything about you, I will never forget. As he spoke, he picked up an apple from the bedside and carefully peeled it for me. But he had already forgotten that I'm allergic to apples. I didn't want to act abnormally, so I just let him do it. I didn't stay in the hospital for long before hastily leaving. Because Qi County experienced a 7-magnitude earthquake, urgently lacking medical rescue. Zhou Ningyuan could also distinguish between what's urgent and what's not, and went to the earthquake center with me. But just as we were about to get on the amble, ants, we saw Zhou Ningyuan rushing over with her belly. Ningyuan, I also want to do my part. No, you're pregnant. Zhou Ningyuan's brows were tightly furrowed, his tone unquestionable. Yuan, you're not alone now, you have to think about me and our unborn child. Zhou Ningyuan pouted in grievance, almost on the verge of tears. But I'm also a medical staff, I want to do something for people too. I glanced at my watch, feeling a wave of irritation. Without waiting for Zhou Ningyuan to speak, I yanked her up, slammed the car door shut. If you want to act cute, do it in the car, don't waste time. Zhou Ningyuan's face turned embarrassed, and Zhou Ningyuan's tone was also not good. Are you crazy? Letting her get in the car, don't you know how dangerous the disaster area is? Lin Sewer, Yuan is not like you, she's frail, and she's carrying my child in her belly. This was the first time Zhou Ningyuan yelled at me. I ignored him and turned to adjust the medical equipment. Zhou Ningyuan slammed the door forcefully, then turned and said gently to Zhou Ningyuan, "Stay in the car obediently, don't get out, okay?" His hand steadily held her waist, as if he was holding some fragile item. Upon arrival at the destination, he was even more solicitous. "Don't get out. If anything happens, you must find me. If you're tired, just lie down and take a nap. Don't worry, I'll be back soon." He carefully took out a cushion and placed it behind her waist. Only after confirming safety did he reluctantly leave with the team. Compared to the injured being carried onto the ambulance, bloodied and mangled, Zhou Ningyuan seemed like she was sightseeing in the disaster area. The medical staff around also felt speechless, but dared not discuss anything. Because Zhou Ningyuan is the dean's own son. I put on the protective suit, and Zhou Ningyuan came over to put on the safety helmet for me. He carefully fastened the strap for me, and his hand paused. For a moment when his gaze fell on my cold eyes. "I didn't mean to be harsh just now, don't take it to heart. I hummed in response and left with the firefighters. The disaster area was severely damaged, and the firefighters warned us that there was a risk of falling rocks at any time. Not long after the words were spoken, a scream came from the distance. Zhou Ningyuan, who should have been in the car, was now lying on the ground with her lower leg pinned by a rock. I immediately ran towards her and lifted the rock with all my strength. My palm was abraded to the point of flesh and blood, yet the rock didn't budge. The next moment, I was forcefully pushed down and fell harshly onto the pile of rocks. Under the immense impact, a huge boulder fell from above and smashed down on me. People around gasped and rushed towards me, except for Zhou Ningyuan, who was closest to me, acting as if he didn't see. His eyes seemed to only have the rock on Zhou Ningyuan's leg, his face flush. As he desperately tried to lift it. Yuan, don't cry, it will stop hurting very, very soon. At the same time, I was crushed under the rock, my internal organs nearly crushed, unable to utter a word, only able to let out faint whimpers. "Ningyuan, save me." In the crevice of the rock, I saw Zhou Ningyuan holding Zhou Ningyuan and running towards the ambulance without looking back. Another burst of falling rocks filled the last gap, and in the thin air, I remembered that year when Zhou Ningyuan said to me, "I became a doctor to save the ones I love." Although it was said to me, there was no specific name mentioned. At this moment, I knew the true owner of those words. I listened to the urgent rescue sounds outside and slowly closed my eyes. I woke up in a sea of white with only peripheral vision. My whole body was wrapped in bandages with cries all around. Zhou Ningyuan stood by the bed, with dark circles under his eyes. "Sua, you're finally awake, I thought you would never wake up again." I had never seen him cry so loudly, so painfully. I opened my mouth and a swollen, bloody taste surged from my throat. "Am I badly injured?" Zhou Ningyuan was stunned, and the ward fell into silence. He hesitated for a long time, gripping my hand tighter and tighter. "Sua, you might not be able to be a doctor anymore. But don't worry, I won't abandon you. I will take care of you for the rest of your life. You can just stay at home and enjoy yourself, and occasionally help me take care of the kids. Get out. Zhou Ningyuan's body froze in place, his eyes full of disbelief. He didn't know what he had done wrong, and in the end, he was hit out of the ward with a cup by me. "Lin Sewer, don't go too far." If it weren't for you deliberately calling Yuan out at that time, would things have turned out like this? I haven't even mentioned you, and you dare to lose your temper with me. I really don't know who spoiled you. Ink, you've never suffered a loss, and you deserve not to be a doctor. A woman as vicious as you, I shouldn't have bothered with you in the first place. Listening to his roar, I shouted again. Get out! Get out! Get out of here! Everyone in the ward was so frightened that they didn't dare to make a sound. The usually gentle Dr. Lin actually got so angry. Dr. Lin, are you okay? No, I'm not okay. I'm so bad that I want to die. A month later, all the bandages were removed. Fortunately, there was no disfigurement. Most of the wounds have healed, and the most severe right arm can barely move the fingers. During this period, Zhou Ningyuan came to see me and was driven out by me. On the day of discharge, he came to see me with flowers and fruits. Suar, forgive me, I had no choice at that time. Yuan was pregnant, I couldn't let it be a double death, could I? You are a doctor, you should be able to distinguish the order of treatment. I stared into his eyes, trying to find a trace of guilt and worry, but there was none, not at all. Those eyes so open and clear. Zhou Ningyuan never thought he had any problems. Zhou Ningyuan, I am a doctor. But did you forget that I am also your wife? His face stiffened, I smiled and continued. But soon, I won't be any more. Zhou Ningyuan frowned, about to speak when he heard his phone ring urgently. Honey, my leg hurts again. Could you come back and rub it for me? Before the other person finished speaking, he immediately threw away the fruit basket and left the ward without looking back. I stepped over the scattered fruits and went to handle the discharge shosir with my bag on my back. On the way, I heard a familiar giggle coming from a ward. On the hospital bed, Shen Yuan had a rosy complexion, eating a fresh apple. Zhou Ningyuan sat at the head of the bed, carefully massaging her legs, his eyes so tender they could drip water. Those legs were snow-white and flawless, completely different from the ferocious and terrifying scars on my right arm. Don't be afraid, it's all over now. This is a talisman, you wear it on you, to bless you and the child with a lifetime of health and safety. He took out a pink lotus bag and tied it around her waist. It was what I had prayed for at Sensoji Temple, kneeling for a long time. Yet he gave it to Shen Yuan so easily. A fine pain came from my chest. I lowered my eyes and left without looking back. When handling the discharge shushu, the nurse at the window looked around in confusion. Where is Dr. Zhou? Why didn't he come with you? I signed all the papers in silence, only answering her at the time of parting. We have divorced, he doesn't need to come. Leaving the people at the window in shock, I submitted my resignation. Then I went straight to the Civil Affairs Bureau to pick up the marriage certificate. One was stuffed into the suitcase, and the other was stuffed into the door crack. Beijing has been experiencing heavy rain this month, but the day I boarded the plane, the sun was shining brightly. I thought, this must be a blessing from the heavens. After coaxing Shen Yuan to sleep, Zhou Ningyuan let out a weary sigh. Lately, she's becoming more and more picky and clingy. He thought, Lin Suer wouldn't be like this when pregnant. She's always been very independent. She definitely wouldn't worry me. Thinking of this name, he immediately stood up and went to my hospital room. But what awaited him was an empty room. He randomly grabbed someone and asked, only to find out that she had been discharged. Everyone knew except for him. Zhou Ningyuan felt heavy-hearted, feeling a bit panicked for the first time. He recalled that he had indeed neglected me recently, even though her injuries were more severe. He held the discharge procedures, feeling very melancholic. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the marital status section. Strikingly conspicuous single. Zhou Ningyuan couldn't help but clench the document, whispering how could this be. The next moment he hurriedly rushed toward the main door. But midway, he was stopped by Shen Yuan who was out for a walk. She rubbed her drowsy eyes, holding his hand and placing it on her chest. Brother Ningyuan, the thunder outside is so loud, my heart is so anxious, don't leave tonight, stay and keep me company, okay? Zhou Ningyuan looked at her affected expression, feeling a gust of irritation in his heart. He shook off her hand and wiped his own hand again. No, I have something to do tonight. Without waiting for Shen Yuan to respond, he hurriedly got on the elevator. Since he had his back turned, he didn't see Shen Yuan's face darken instantly. He was holding the steering wheel, with my roar, my cries for help, my cold gaze swirling in his mind. Unable to help but press down harder on the gas, he ran through more than 10 red lights. He abruptly pushed open the door to his home, only to find it empty. Only the lingering scent of roses, Zhou Ningyuan's favorite perfume. The grass and wood ink. Ents that he once reveled in, buried in his shoulder, had vanished. Although it was the marital home, it had not belonged to me for a long time. Zhou Ningyuan also realized this and slammed his hand against the door frame. He lowered his head in regret, only to see a glaring red booklet. Upon picking it up, his chest heaved violently. No, no, it's impossible. How could we be divorced? Zhou Ningyuan tore up the divorce certificate. He couldn't believe it because he had never signed any agreement. He thought I was just angry and made a fake certificate to warn him. But even so, it felt as if his heart had missed a beat. The phone kept ringing, and he angrily hung up when he saw the name on it. It wasn't until the repeated calls that he irritably grabbed his trench coat and rushed to the hospital. As soon as he entered, Zhou Ningyuan started to hold her stomach and cry out in pain. Zhou Ningyuan glanced coldly and said softly, "Don't pretend I'm a doctor. Who are you, P? A Ming Fu?" Zhou Ningyuan's voice suddenly stopped, her eyes filling with tears. "Brother Ningyuan, why are you so cold now? Don't you like me anymore?" "I have never liked you. That night was just an accident. I was drunk and had to take responsibility for you. Once the child is born, you and I will have no relationship. Zhou Ningyuan's indifference caught Zhou Ningyuan off guard. So much so that she didn't recover for a long time after he left. Zhou Ningyuan smoked silently in the courtyard, one after another. He hadn't smoked since Zhou Ningyuan got pregnant. But at this moment, he couldn't find any other way to vent. "Why aren't you taking care of Yuanyuan? What are you doing here?" The dean came over with a cane and removed the cigarette from his mouth. Upon learning that he was worried about Lin Shuer, he was even more furious, pounding the ground heavily with his cane. "A woman who can't bear children, why are you distracted by her? Unlike Yuanyuan who go pregnant right away, she is the lucky star of our Zhou family. I say once she gives birth, you should divorce Lin Shuer and live with Yuanyuan. It's not bad either. Enough. He didn't know which word hurt Zhou Ningyuan. His chest heaved violently. He lit another cigarette and exhaled the smoke heavily. "I will not divorce Lin Shuer. She will not divorce me either, not in a lifetime. The dean stared at Zhou Ningyuan, full of confusion. Before parting, Zhou Ningyuan crushed the cigarette end and said to him, "Dad, I didn't want to have children at first. You blamed her wrongly. The late truth served no purpose. The dean just snorted coldly. He even brought Zhou Ningyuan into the VIP ward the next day and cleared the floor for her. He approached Zhou Ningyuan with a joyful face, pulling out a solid gold safety lock from behind. "Yuanyuan, you must take good care of your health. If anything goes wrong, my heart can't take it. Zhou Ningyuan took it, but the smile on her lips was very fake. Zhou Ningyuan hadn't visited Zhou Ningyuan for a long time, because he was busy looking for me all over the world. The empty phone number, the disconnected social circle, and the police said to him, "Sorry, the system shows that you are not a marital relationship with him, and you have no right to know his whereabouts." At that moment, Zhou Ningyuan was struck by lightning. The police couldn't help sighing. A man in a suit, exquisite and elegant, actually went crazy and almost smashed the police station. After several days of continuous drunkenness, Zhou Ningyuan finally accepted the fact. Lin Shuer divorced him without him realizing it. He threw away the bottle, angrily scratched his messy hair. When exactly, why doesn't he have any impression? He forgot. During that time, his eyes were only on Zhou Ningyuan. Not even a grain of sand could get in. A week later, Zhou Ningyuan finally picked himself up. He drove to the hospital, preparing to ask medical staff one by one. But he overheard a conversation. "What are you saying? Isn't what's in Zhou Ningyuan's belly Dr. Zhou's? Why would I lie to you? My man came back and told me that a woman paid him 2 million to fake a DNA test. After checking the consultation form, that ID number is indeed Nurse Shun's. I always said, didn't Nurse Shun and that young man from the cafeteria flirt for a long time? How did she suddenly get involved with Dr. Zhou?" Zhou Ningyuan listened to it all, his eyes red as if bleeding. A month later, he stepped into Zhou Ningyuan's ward for the first time. The woman affectionately threw herself at him, not noticing the darkness in the man's eyes at all. Zhou Ningyuan snorted coldly, forcibly dragging her to have an amniocentesis. At the door of the treatment room, Zhou Ningyuan collapsed and screamed. "Zhou Ningyuan, what are you doing? Don't you believe me? Weren't you looking forward to this child? Let me go. Be careful not to har. And my pregnancy, do you know this is illegal?" Zhou Ningyuan looked up, her face full of tears. If it were before, Zhou Ningyuan would have softened his heart long ago, even holding her back and coaxing her softly. But at this moment, his face was as gloomy as the Grim Reaper. He fiercely pinched Zhou Ningyuan's neck, his eyes scarlet, his tone burning with fire. Illegal. Was it illegal for you to fake the test results? Zhou Ningyuan's body stiffened, and the medical staff took the opportunity to drag her into the operating room. When the test results came out, Zhou Ningyuan laughed. He couldn't stop laughing, holding his stomach, until he laughed out tears. He actually tortured his own wife for someone else's child for so long, and even ended up harming her so badly. It's so ridiculous, so ridiculous. This child is not from the Zhou family. The dean rushed over, brutally beating the weak Zhou Ningyuan with his cane until she was sobbing uncontrollably. The lunge. Vidi lock tied to her hand was also smashed to pieces. His face was ferocious, as if he wanted to devour the woman beneath him alive. You dare to play us around like this? Florence. The sun is shining brightly. I faced the church and comfortably stretched a big, satisfying yawn. I calculated that it has been over a month since I left Zhou Ningyuan. I came to the city I longed for as a child to study photography here. Medicine was not my dream, so I was always absent-minded during school. It was only after years of saving lives and healing injuries in my job that I gained respect for this profession. After my right hand was disabled, I felt that not being obsessed with medicine was a good thing, so I wouldn't be heartbroken to the point of dying. Returning to campus life again, I have a different feeling in my heart. Now I am no longer the green and inexperienced person I used to be. My steps are much more steady, and I no longer skip classes. But my notes are still made by someone else. Turning my head, I saw the boy in fro. NT bent over, writing furiously, and I couldn't help but smirk. Gu Mufeng, a boy so kind-hearted that he aspires to take in all the stray cats in Florence. After he found out about my injured right hand, he directly took over my notebook. Didn't even give me a chance to refuse, and then he started writing hurriedly. Seeing his serious expression, I couldn't say much. He handed me the notebook, and I was lost in the words written on it. Memories couldn't help but drift back to college, where the youthful faces of boys and the bright smiles of girls intertwined. Eventually, the girl's face turned pale, her eyes lost their luster, while the boy remained as charming as ever. The heart, which I thought had long been numb, started to ache faintly again. Zhou Ningyuan, Zhou Ningyuan, and their child must be living very happily. What's wrong? Is it because my handwriting is not good? Gu Mufeng took the notebook and looked at it from all angles. I shook my head vigorously, pulled back my thoughts, and ruffled his hair. It looks very good. The action paused, and both of us were stunned for a moment. Because I continued my studies after working, I subconsciously felt like an elder. Gu Mufeng's face turned red, and he stammered as he stuffed the notebook back into my arms. Why you like it, that's all that matters. Listening to his incoherent response, I couldn't help but laugh. This laugh made him even more embarrassed, and he ran away in a flash. Watching his retreating back as he trotted away, my gaze softened involuntarily. Youth is so good, carefree and worry-free. Innocent and naive, everything is just right. I opened the notebook and began to read the words on it carefully. The handwriting is indeed quite good. Ningyuan, although this child is not yours, I can still have another one with you. I'm very fertile. Zhou Ningyuan was screaming at the top of her lungs, not letting go of any chance. But this sentence made Zhou Ningyuan feel even more disgusted. I will not have a child with a promiscuous slut like you. Zhou Ningyuan raised her head. Her gaze towards Zhou Ningyuan was extremely desolate. Did you not have any feelings for me these past few months? Was the kindness and favoritism towards me just because of the child? Zhou Ningyuan did not respond, but his cold eyes said it all. Zhou Ningyuan laughed mockingly, and tears could no longer be held back, rolling down. So who do you want to have a child with, Lin Sewer? But have you forgotten that the ring on her belly was put on by your own hands? Besides, she's already gone. Before she could finish speaking, a pair of big hands tightly gripped her throat. How do you know? Zhou Ningyuan was choked by him until her face turned red and her complexion became a terrifying purplish color, but her gaze was still unwilling. Not only that, I personally sent her away. Zhou Ningyuan, do you know? You were really decisive when you signed the divorce agreement. Zhou Ningyuan's grip was even stronger, and it was only because of Dean Zhou's intervention that he didn't end up committing a fatal mistake. Zhou Ningyuan gasped heavily, followed by intense cramps. But she acted her whole life, and this time it was real, yet no one believed her anymore. Zhou Ningyuan walked away without looking back, not sparing her another glance. Ningyuan, save me. Save me. Please, please. Zhou Ningyuan. You heartless and unfeeling person. Lin Suer was right to leave you. You're not worth committing a lifetime to. Zhou Ningyuan finally stopped in his tracks, his silhouette violently undulating. Zhou Ningyuan, who are you pretending to be deeply affectionate for now? Wasn't it you who pushed her onto the rock pile, causing her disability? Don't fool yourself into pretending to forget. If you didn't remember this incident, would you so easily forgive her for Lin Su's leg being pinned down? Zhou Ningyuan, yo. You're just a coward. She seemed to have gone mad, one sentence after another without pause. Zhou Ningyuan, furious, turned around and grabbed her hair, saying harshly, My sins, I will atone for myself. And your sins, you must atone for them yourself. Finally, a woman's scream came from the ward, and when she was wheeled out, her abdomen was already flat. Sister Lin, why do you want to be a photographer? Gu Mufeng, with one hand supporting his chin, asked me earnestly. To capture the beauty of the world, it's rare after all. He was taken aback, then pouted. Sister Lin, you're too pessimistic, there's still a lot of beauty in the world. I helplessly shook my head, not saying anything more. Gu Mufeng, seeing my seasoned demeanor as if I were an old-timer, felt somewhat disgruntled. He dragged me by the hand into a cramped laboratory. Before I could speak, I heard the delicate meows of cats coming from inside. As I stepped in, I couldn't help but gasp. There were any cats, but I couldn't bring myself to laugh. Their fur was matted, and quite a few were missing limbs. It looks pretty desolate, right? But you have no idea how they looked when I first met them. It was so disgusting that I couldn't believe they could survive. Sis Lin, I know you're very sad about your right hand, but look at it. As he spoke, he picked up a kitten with a broken front right leg. Its name is Huan Huan. When I first found it, it was so thin it couldn't compete for food, but now it runs faster than those with 4 legs on just 3, and it's well-fed and plump. I understood his meaning, and a warmth flowed through my heart. Gu Mufeng patted my shoulder and said in a feigned mature tone, Sis Lin, it will all pass. If it doesn't, I'll push you through. That day, we squatted in the laboratory watching the kittens for the whole afternoon. Gu Mufeng wasn't lying. That 3-legged kitten indeed ran the most happily and ate the most. The sunlight was brilliant, filling the room. I smiled brightly at the kittens, and when I turned my head, I looked straight into Gu Mufeng's eyes. In the quiet room, our heartbeats overflowed. Fortunately, 2 loud cat calls covered it up. The red sports car sped down the road, the man at the wheel with a lifeless gaze. The phone rang, and he answered it in a daze. A voice, aged and worn, came from the other end. Ningyuan, I heard that Suer divorced you. We didn't handle this well, you must bring her back. Tell her that when she comes back, I will sincerely apologize to her, and there are consulting positions in the hospital. She can continue to be a doctor. Zhou Ningyuan hung up the phone, his eyes filled with even more sorrow. Back at home, the intense smell of dust shattered his last line of defense. He didn't take a few steps before he fell to his knees and burst into tears. It was a message that brought a glimmer of light back to his eyes. Since that day, Gu Mufeng and I have been tacitly understanding each other. But I haven't taken that step. My past is too terrible, so terrible that I must surpass him to start a new life. I scheduled a tubal ligation removal surgery, but unexpectedly ran into Gu Mufeng, who was there for a physical examination. At that moment, I wanted to hide, but he grabbed me. After looking at the documents, Gu Mufeng's expression changed slightly. My heart sank to the abyss because of this, and I helplessly lowered my head. Who would have thought, he said. What era is it still to have an IUD? If it were me, I'd definitely get a vasectomy myself. I didn't expect him to have this attitude, and I was even more surprised by his words. Yes, why didn't Zhou Ningyuan get a vasectomy himself? Only now do I suddenly realize. It turns out that from the very beginning, I was incredibly wrong. Gu Mufeng didn't ask about my past, but accompanied me through the surgery. Looking at the small ring on the iron plate, I finally let out a sigh of relief. It seemed as if those sorrowful pasts had finally left me behind. And Gu Mufeng's hand tightly interlocked with mine represented my new life. Suerdat. The familiar voice interrupted everything. Zhou Ningyuan stood in the distance, staring at us in a daze. His gaze fell on our hands, and he couldn't help but sway, rushing over the next second to forcefully separate us. I have some things to talk to him about alone. Gu Mufeng nodded, tactfully stepping back to a distance. What are you doing here? We're divorced. The agreement. I didn't sign the agreement. I never thought about divorce. He clutched my hand tightly until I frowned, then abruptly let go. I'm sorry. It's fine, I can't feel my hand. I'm just annoyed by you. Zhou Ningyuan's face was full of guilt, tears falling on the back of my hand. I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to. Sua, can you forgive me? Can we start over? I was really wrong. Looking at the man in front of me with tears streaming down his face, I only felt confused. Why does Zhou Ningyuan seem to love me so much now? But wasn't it him who cheated and hurt me over and over again? Zhou Ningyuan, start over. Do you mean go home to be Shen Yuanyuan's nanny, or to be your son's servant? He shook his head vigorously, his tone urgent. No, I've already ended things with Shen Yuanyuan. Her child is not mine. I am innocent. At that moment, I understood everything. So, the grass by the nest has rotted and stunk, wanting to eat the grass that was cast aside. I pushed Zhou Ningyuan away, enunciating each word. Your family matters have nothing to do with me. We are divorced, please do not disturb my life, Mr. Zhou. After saying this, I walked away. But all I heard was a thud from behind. The man knelt down straight. Sua, you can scold me, hit me, but don't abandon me, okay? Our feelings from college until now, aren't they worth you forgiving me once, giving me a chance, okay? I turned around, and there was a gleam in his eyes. But the next second it was EXT. Anguished, he was covering his swollen, red face, shocked. You, hit me. I hit you on purpose. I used my left hand to lift that powerless right arm. It was terrifyingly shaky. It's because I remembered our old feelings that I forgave you again and again. You pushed me down and broke my hand. I didn't even send you to prison. Zhou Ningyuan, what you owe me, you can never repay in a lifetime. After saying this, I left with Gu Mufeng. I don't know what expression Zhou Ningyuan had, only remembering the shrill cries echoing in the corridor. All the way, Gu Mufeng didn't say a word. I was about to find a topic, but when I turned my head, I saw his eyes were red as if they were bleeding. Sis Lin, so your right hand was broken by him. I hummed, deciding to tell him the whole story. Who knew it was better not to say anything, because after I finished, Gu Mufeng buried his head in the steering wheel for a long time without lifting it. Are you okay? Why? Do you act like it's your hand that's broken? Gu Mufeng raised his head, turned to look at me seriously and said, Sis Lin, you've had it much worse than Huan. So you have to be even happier. I was stunned, and before I could recover, a kiss landed on my lips. He gently held my chin, his slightly trembling fingertips betraying his hidden panic. After a long while, he let go and rubbed my head. From now on, we have to be happy all the time. We laughed, completely oblivious to the man in the distance whose fingertips were digging into his flesh. In the following days, Zhou Ningyuan appeared in every corner of my life. The library, coffee shops, campus cafeteria. In the subsequent encounters, there was more blood at the corner of his mouth, and Gu Mufeng's knuckles were always bruised. Students couldn't help but glance over, wanting to see who could make the male Saint Gu Mufeng resort to violence. My life was turned upside down by him. Eventually, I couldn't be it anymore and arranged a private meeting with him. Zhou Ningyuan was beaming with joy, even putting on the suit he wore at our wedding to rekindle old feelings. But I didn't even glance, with a cold expression on my face. Zhou Ningyuan, if you disturb my life again, I will disappear completely. Straight to the point. Zhou Ningyuan's hand holding the coffee cup trembled, and he quickly put down the cup, scalded. I glanced at the blisters on his hand and snorted coldly. There was sadness on his face, his lips opening and closing without making a sound. If you don't speak, I'll take it as your consent. After saying that, I got up to leave. Wait. Sua, I heard you took off the ring, right? Do you want to have a child with him? Looking at his trembling hand on my wrist, I hummed. Zhou Ningyuan went completely mad, pinning me against the wall and kissing me frantically. The violent struggle knocked over the cup, and the scalding coffee stimulated his skin, but Zhou Ningyuan didn't feel any pain. What truly made him heartbroken seemed to be only the woman in front of him. Let go of me, beast! The more I shouted, the harder Zhou Ningyuan held on. Sister Lin. Gu Mufeng rushed over and punched Zhou Ningyuan to the ground. He tightly protected me behind him and stuffed the car keys into my hand. Sister Lin, you go first, I'll handle this. When I took the keys, I rushed to the door. After starting the car, I didn't see the scuffling seen through the glass window. Later, Zhou Ningyuan never appeared on campus again. At the cafe, the gossipy staff told me. You have no idea, last time that guy made him cry, saying you were desperate because you couldn't be a doctor, attempting suicide countless times, and that you wake up every midnight wanting to stab him. That guy even played the emotional card, speaking very seriously. She barely wanted to live. Do you really want her to die again? If you truly love her, set her free. After here. All this, I couldn't help but laugh. Gumufeng is really imaginative, but I was indeed living quite poorly. It must have been after the investigation that they realized Gumufeng lied. But when I pointed the knife at my throat, he took 3 steps back. That day, I saw despair in his eyes for the first time. He asked me, "Will we never see each other again?" "Yes, we'll never see each other again." His words turned out to be prophetic, and we never met again. The year I graduated, I gave Gumufeng a notebook as a graduation gift. He pouted, somewhat dissatisfied. "Sis Lin, you're too stingy, just giving me this?" But when he saw the belated confession on the first page, he stammered and couldn't say the second half of the sentence. I held the camera in one hand and took his graduation photo for him. Years later, when I picked up the photo, I realized there was a person standing behind the tree. He stared blankly at the happiness he had thrown away